welcome to GameSpot presents the HotSpot. It is Friday, March 9th? I don't know. This is our 4th GDC podcast. I'm a little exhausted, but this is going to be a super good one because we're talking about narrative today. And I have some pretty good minds from the industry on this narrative panel. Starting off with Greg Kasavin. Sorry, sorry.
Wow.
Good start.
Good start.
Greg used to be your boss.
Greg used to be my boss. Greg, actually, I don't know. I remember the first day. I'll let you talk. You should talk.
What? No, you have to finish that.
No, yeah, I remember when I was still a copy editor here, and you were editor-in-chief, and I remember going to you maybe 6, 7, 8 months after starting and be like, Greg, I want to write. Let me write. And I was like shaking in my boots, like, because, you know.
What did I say?
You were like, yeah, man, just put something together and we'll take a look at it.
That's good.
It was very supportive.
Cool.
I appreciate that a lot.
That's good.
Yeah.
I was a little worried
You
there
were
for a
a
second.
good boss. Greg was a dick.
That's right.
What can I say?
Dodged a bullet.
But no, you wrote Bastion.
Yeah,
which
that's right.
People seem to like. It took a couple GDC awards on Wednesday.
Yeah. That it's totally. I can't believe I'm sitting at the table with the rest of these guys. Let's put it that way. It's something I was.
We actually asked.
It was the first. Yeah.
It's hard for us to believe.
And then on my right ahead we have Eric Wolpaw and Jay Pinkerton sharing a camera and a microphone.
Indeed.
You guys wrote Portal 2, which is a pretty good game.
Thank you.
Yes. Feel free to talk into that microphone too. But
you say get farther away.
Get
from it?
as far away so that you're actually out of the camera
It's
shot.
just hard because we only have one microphone between the two of us.
Yeah, I'm afraid of actually like hitting Eric in the head when I come in to talk.
Honestly,
Definitely-
we're not Greg Kasavin.
He was my boss. I have to
probably
do-
good enough.
Do deference.
Yeah.
Also from the Portal 2 team, Chet Felzik.
Hello.
Did I say your name right?
Yeah, very good.
Thank God.
Now spell it.
Yeah.
Now spell it.
Yours was the one I was worried about. But also writing a Portal 2, which also won some GDCA awards. And rounding it out, we have Steve Jaros, the man behind the writing on Saints Row the Third.
We also won nothing at the GDC Awards, so I don't think
Yeah.
So
Nominated
I,
a couple of times at least.
Surprisingly.
yeah, I know. It was fun. Go us.
But yeah, so this is the last day of GDC. Have you guys been to many panel sessions? Have you seen anything interesting?
Only our own.
Only your own?
Well, we gave one, and then we've been doing a lot of press and stuff like that. And Valve has a booth, like a career. Should I be looking over at you occasionally? It feels weird not to.
It does. You can acknowledge my existence.
Hold my hands like this.
Talk to whoever you want.
Okay.
Ignore the camera most of all.
What was I going to say? Oh, well, so Valve has a booth in the Career Pavilion, so we kind of work the booth as well and talk to people coming through and look at their portfolios and stuff.
Totally. Did you guys? Did you see any sessions that you liked, or do you guys even go to sessions? Do you find it edifying at any point?
Yeah, I went to let's see, there was like the what's it called, like the panel discussion that had like Romero and Notch and Jordan Mechner and Adam Saltzman on there.
What were they
So
talking about?
they're talking about like sort of the indie revival or whatever, because those guys all started. They were, the equivalent of independent development. That's all there was, kind of when a lot of those guys are getting started.
Mechner, is he making games?
Yeah, he's got a karateka. Not
right.
karateka.
Wait, is that how he pronounces it?
Yeah,
Oh my God, I've been mispronouncing it since 1982.
That's what everybody said. Yeah, I thought it was karateka, but yeah, karateka is how he says it.
Karateka.
That's
Wow.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
We should do a seminar on that.
Literally
But
insane.
he, at any rate, yeah, he's apparently working on a remake of it. He's back from the filmmaking dark side, which I'm glad about, because I was a huge fan of his games when I was a kid.
No, he was making movies. He was making movies.
He
He
did
was
the
in
Prince
that
of Persia movie.
game.
He like
really?
he like
Or the
wrote
movie.
it, and he was very involved with it.
Did he have anything to do with the games? The Prince of Persia games?
Yeah, well, he did. Yeah, he did the Sands of Time.
Time.
Yeah, the 2002 game,
Okay.
which was
They were kinda, Now
awesome.
that I think about it, they're karateka.
Like, yeah. Well, Prince of Persia always kind of was.
Yeah.
It's like the more involved version without the fucking bird. So I was the first one to broke. Yeah.
What is John Romero these days?
He works at what's it called? Loot Drop. He has a company. They make social
with
stuff
Brenda.
with Brenda
Brad
Brathwaite.
Brathwaite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brathwaite. This is like Karateka now.
It's
Brad Brathwaite or is
wait,
it
I think it's I think it's Brathwaite, but
Wait,
I'm
is
not
it?
sure.
Fuck. I don't know. I'm a terrible person.
All right, if you're Brenda Brathwaite and you're watching this, write in, tell us how to pronounce your name.
Brathwaite.
Brathwaite.
It's my
Great.
With Jordan
Spike
Mechner? Don't bother. It's Karateka.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but the reason why we're in the room is narrative, and I'm gonna start this off with Saints Row the Third, just because I've been playing it a lot recently, and not to say that I'm playing whatever. Saints Row the Third. It's a very interesting game for me because I don't know. It seems like Saints Row the Third. You cannot do that in any other medium. Like, wielding a dildo bat just does not work in, say, a movie or a book.
Well, it depends
you
on the
have
movie.
to have that in a video game for it to make sense and to have some kind of significance or a narrative effect. And so that just kind of had me thinking of like, what can games do in the realm of narrative that other mediums can't do?
Well, I think that one of the most exciting things, at least in Saints Row, is about the fact that we let the player go and do whatever the hell they want to do, right? And it's like that the element of choice is really exciting. Like, I love the fact that our protagonist can be a man or a woman, any ethnicity, any voice, and everyone just treats them with like respect and just acts like they're the coolest motherfucker in the room, and that was really important to us when we were making the game. And I think that having that sort of like flexibility and letting the game kind of react to what you want to do and put yourself in that story is really it's really unique. I think the other thing that's really different about games is just the way that we make them. It's like if someone wants to be in a tour, they can write a book, but like we all work together with so many great people, right? And it's not one person's ideas that make the game what it is. It's 100 people who are just working their ass off to try to make it work. And anytime that you're just open to other people giving you ideas and like folding that together to create something together, it's awesome. And there's really nothing else really like it, that I can think of. And it's pretty exciting. And the fact that we're basically a peyote field fever dream, we can do whatever the hell we want, is also kind of neat in Saints Row. But that's a separate story.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's all about just like this is something that you can do. It's like you guys are really taking advantage of the idea that you're the creators of this and you're not bound by reality in this sense.
Right. We acknowledge that it's a game,
Yeah.
like, and that's the thing, is that we accept the fact that it is what it is. Like, one of someone came up to me and mentioned that their favorite line in the game happens in the beginning, where someone's like, "Oh, how long do we have to go and defend this place? Oh, it's like 2 waves of SWAT guys." And it's just like we just enjoy just breaking the fourth wall. We accept the fact that we're playing a game and just go and embrace it, and it's kind of liberating, because a lot like people take games really seriously sometimes, and it's nice that it's like, it's supposed to be fun, and let it be fun, and there's, we can go and we can have a good time, and we don't always have to try to go and save the world. There's it's cool to do that too, but sometimes you just want to watch shit blow up and have, and smile.
Well, you guys definitely break it out there in one of the missions, right? I mean, you just totally embraced the game stuff, and that was really cool to get to that, kind of making fun of the progression on that.
You can totally
appreciate it.
Drop a spoiler if you want
I
to.
don't even know what you're talking about. Which
Later in the game, don't you remember there's one mission that just really goes out of context and isn't based in reality at all? It's just inside a video game.
Yeah, right. We do a text adventure in the middle of it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just
Go back to
that's
combat.
just funny. It's just like, all right, we're a game. Yeah, we're a game.
My favorite line in Saints Row, it's filthy. But can I say it? Should I just...
I'll just bleep. I'll just a series of bleeps, but you can
All
say
right,
it.
you bleep it out. So who's the core? Oh, the one of the main characters is the black guy. I can't remember what his name is.
Pierce.
Pierce. And you're on the ship when you're disguised as the commander of the ship. And if you're one of the female characters, if you pick to play a female character and you're talking to your sidekick disguised as the evil leader of this thing, you're like, "So, you think Pierce is cute?" And your sidekick's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Would you fuck him?" Remember?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Could have died in the
Nice
room here.
nice delivery on that
Yeah.
That was a good line.
Good in context.
Chet's like,
Thank you.
crawling on
It's
the
funny at the
table.
time.
No.
Anyway,
But totally, and it's interesting also because it's like all of you guys have kind of done things that are very uniquely game related. Like for Bastion, it's like the whole idea of the narrator is, having this guy just talk and narrate exactly what you're doing is very interesting from a narrative perspective. I'm kind of curious, like what you were trying to do there. And...
Yeah. I mean, it started the intent of it was pretty simple, which was that we wanted the game to have some kind of like narrative substance to it. We didn't want it just to be like a shallow run around and kill shit action RPG. But then we never wanted to like stop the game for the story's sake because no one gives a damn about our story. So we're like, how can we do this in such a way that it doesn't interrupt the player? And Amir, our studio director, and Darren, our audio director, knew a dude with an awesome voice. They've like known each other since they were kids, and they had him record a few lines.
Of Darren Korb or something.
Yeah, Darren Korb. Darren Korb is our audio director. Logan Cunningham is our narrator. So it started, partly out of necessity, partly out of what was the means available to us, and then it just turned out. It was really interesting, in terms of the story, kind of that I always had in mind for it anyway. It like suddenly gave it kind of an interesting perspective to filter everything through this one character, so that he could just kind of give context to what you were doing in hopefully surprising ways. Because like we try to never use him as like a play-by-play commentator because that like gets old really fast, So instead, he's trying to give you information that you couldn't have discovered on your own.
There was something interesting you said in there. Nobody gives a damn about the story. Why is that?
Because they're here for a game.
Yeah.
There's no so many games start. Maybe it's not super common, but so many games start with like a lot. Too many people have seen Star Wars or something, right? Like Star Wars can get away with a giant wall of text at the beginning, but that's Star Wars.
Oh, hey.
No.
Oh, man. Shit.
Oh, no. It was.
I'll be leaving now. I have to cry in a corner. Thanks, Greg.
That was awesome. No. Saints Row the Third started with like a giant Hadouken. Okay, that was terrible. You know what I mean? Okay.
Anyway, you were doing it as satire, though.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
And couldn't think of anything
Correct.
as good as Greg.
That's right. We didn't have a narrator.
Yeah.
I mean, the nice thing with Bastion though is you consume that even if you are just playing.
Yeah.
That's the point. It's like we hoped it would just kind of grow on people, and then at first it's like, oh, that was kind of funny or whatever, and then they start to pay more and more attention, and then hopefully it's good enough to where by the end, if they've kept playing, either for gameplay reasons or narrative reasons or a combination of the two, they actually care, by the end of the game.
Well, so I always bring out in this argument the Soldier Boy video of him playing Braid.
Yeah.
Which you can just tell that guy is playing a different game than Jonathan Blow meant to make, right? And he's having fun. So God bless him. But yeah, that story is not, I think, making a big impact on Soldier Boy.
Right.
Well, I think it's also interesting. Like I love what you guys do at Valve because it's like you take away. Like you never go and punch people in the face with lore, you know what I mean? Like you let the stories kind of emerge and let it be what it is. And I think what's so great is like in like Left 4 Dead, like I would get in fights with my friend who gets to play Zoe. It's like I want to play Zoe, and I don't know why, but I love her, and it's like you create the setting and like let the characters speak for themselves in just little ways, and it's like it's so it's just compelling. You don't need to go and beat people over the head with the situation. Let the situation speak for itself, and then let the drama come from that, and it's cool.
And
it's
the
really
the
cool.
world the world feels deep. Yeah, there's like a sense of the backstory and what these people did and used to do and all that. Yeah, that's a big influence for us as well because it's just like, especially I don't know, it blows me away that's like in a multiplayer game.
I think there's a lot of just we wanted to be in the moment always and not have that character who hadn't been there before and is going to explain the zombie. What's going on? I just woke up. There's a zombie apocalypse.
Right.
Right,
and a lot of games also, like I find they, like whenever games talk about stuff that's like off screen or whatever, that starts to, I think that really loses people a lot of times. It's like, I'm telling you about a character you're going to meet later or who's important or something. So with our narration, it was just like, here's a dude who can just talk about the stuff that matters to you right in the moment. Here's whether it's the enemy you're fighting or the thing you're trying to get through. So if he's always talking about what's of immediate concern to you, hopefully, for the player, they will just naturally be more interested in it.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, And it's interesting also because, I mean, a part of that, it seems like it's very humbling because it's like, I'd imagine everyone in here has this respect for, words and the power of words and everything. But something that Steve said, there's so many different departments involved in this. It's not just, a dude writing a script. Do you guys want to talk about a little bit about what it's like working with, say, the physics people or the audio people on how to get your narrative to pop?
So I think different studios do things their own way, and I'm not saying that one way is good or good or bad, but for me, I think it's so important, at least when you're first developing the story, that you can't do it in a vacuum. Like if I go into a room and I write a story and say, listen guys, here's the here's the story, make a game out of it, I think you're going down a bad place. Likewise, if people say, oh listen, we got a bunch of cool levels, go and give me a story to tie it all together, then that doesn't go anyplace good either. And you really see, for me, the most success is when you work together with a room of people trying to figure out, oh, what's the through line? How does this connect together? Oh, we could do this. Oh, we don't want to have that mission. We did an escort 1-2 ones before. How do we spread? How do we create the pace? And you let that story kind of flow together. And then once you do that, it's like getting with the different departments who are working on something and selling them on why you need to be able to have the bank vault be ripped out of a building because if we do this, we can go and do X, Y, and Z, right? And then and getting them
do X, Y, and Z with
because the thing is, you at the end of the day, you're working with this group of people, and the words that you write potentially to start this is going to take us 5 minutes to write this thing, and it's going to take someone 6 months of hell to actually implement it.
Absolutely.
So you want to be able to A, sell it, and B, justify it, and make sure you're not wasting, your friends. At the end of the day, you know all these people. You don't want to waste their time.
Right. I think there's also kind of this perception in Hollywood of the writer is almost this gunslinger. You come in, you do the contract, you throw the script over the fence, and you're done. And I mean, I just don't think that really works for a game. You kind of need to be embedded. You need to be changing it. That's why I was so jealous, Greg, when you were talking about, what access you had to your narrator. You can just go in there and just be tweaking stuff on a daily basis.
That is. So I'm sure Steve had this as well. There, you do have these things where, with your actors, you have maybe one session, maybe at the most 4 sessions or 5, and so those are points of no return. Where
and we were fairly lucky with Ellen because Ellen's who voices Gladys also lives in the Seattle area.
So I guess we were Ellen was sort of like Logan in a way.
Kind of running and panicked over to her every few weeks, but other actors, of course, you really only do get one shot at. So as a consequence, you've got us doing horrible J.K. Simmons impressions and a lot of temp stuff to make sure it works first.
But there you can't even. You're pretty sure it works, but you're not really sure.
Yeah, because
my J.K. Simmons sounds like Canadian George Bush.
Your lemon speech is still awesome and one of my favorite things. We should just ship your version. But so for GLaDOS, we actually used just the robotic voice thing. Yeah. And man, that would just be it was so no-sell your joke, and you'd be like, oh, dear God, we have to get to a session because this is not funny.
And there's also the thing with comedy, because comedy is so a matter of inches and a matter of microseconds and picoseconds. So something's obviously not funny until it is. And the idea that... Okay, you want to just do that instead of me telling my story?
Okay. Really? Are you going to be that guy?
Yeah, you're going to be that guy. And maybe lose my train of thought to make a lame joke about picoseconds. Anyway, where was I? What was I talking about?
I think you were talking about
the timing.
The timing and using real actors.
Oh, and no, that's not what I was
It's the comic timing. It's like the real actor is going to nail it.
So it's just super important to be able to get in there and cut it yourself and work with it yourself. But B, it's one of those things, like as Chet's saying, if you're just using temp stuff and you're trying to slap it in, you're not going to get laughs until it's done. That is so demoralizing, where sometimes you're working with something months and months, and you know in your heart it's eventually going to be good, but at the time, it's not quite there.
Although that's kind of, although we test it and, you kind of get there. My experience, probably yours too, games are terrible until about 3 weeks before.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's just like, you're like, oh my God. The only way to get through that is to be working with someone who's done it before and be like, yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, this game is bad. It's gonna be good.
Trust us.
Yeah. I remember on Saints Row 1, it was right before we were doing our first showing at E3, and the game just didn't work. It didn't and one night the world wouldn't load, there was no skybox. It was a fucking train wreck. And the next day we show up to work, it's like someone hit the fun switch, and all of a sudden it just showed up. What just even happened? Because everyone everyone thought we were doomed. And then like some dude was like, "Oh, we're gonna go and cure cancer," and then hits a button, and all of a sudden everything works, and I have no idea.
I mean, it's actually kind of almost a good way to do it because, I mean, well, it's not like it's planned that way, but the because you sort of get ground down by the end of a game and you're about to ship, and then but you get this second win because you start seeing things come online that are like, oh my god, this shitty thing I've been looking at for 2 years is suddenly great.
You've got this thing, and I think Eric and Chet had a great point when they were doing their presentation about it the other day, where people have literally been hearing this temp voice for, say, 6 months. And no matter how creaky or awful it is, and the guy's clearly not an actor, it kind of just grows on you. And then so you finally get your A-list actor in, and he's knocked it out of the park, and you come back to the session like doing your strut, and everyone's like, oh yeah,
it's not the same.
The old one over again. It's just people don't like change. Even the hipster artists on staff, they don't like change either. Nobody likes change. But then they get used to it.
Yeah.
Something that's kind of a bummer is like when things start coming in. It's totally, I totally agree. It's super exciting as things start coming in. And you get energized again because games take so long to make, and it's easy to go and like get lost and like, oh god, I'm in this grind. Yeah. But the other the downside is that sometimes you see things that start coming to life, and like that's when you even get more inspired, and you want to do all these things, but you can't do it because it's too, the genie's already out of the bottle. You already recorded your sessions. Like, oh my god, if I had known that that's the way the mission was going to play out, I would have done something totally different.
Well, because you have the horrible thing that happens at the end, localization. Right? And so you have to get everything done so far in advance so that they can send it to the localizers, get it back.
Yeah, because there's a point where there's still some hookups being done and there's still some work being done, but we can't cut our lines anymore. Like, we've recorded them, but a lot of times, you can cut a sentence out here or there, you could cut some timing out, or you cut a word out. And you just can't do that once you send it to the localizer.
I mean, I don't know if is Portal funny in German. I don't speak German.
Yeah.
No idea.
We can localize our voices for that reason. We just
oh really? Didn't? Yeah. Did you just do a text over?
Yeah.
That's what we did.
It would have been
is the hardest job in the world. They have to take all those lines and they have to match the timing.
Yeah, for us it would have been like impossible for that reason because we timed out all of the all of it is like me going in there and like changing a 0.75 to a 0.65 for like timings and stuff. So
it's a technical nightmare, right? But it's also like just a cultural nightmare. Like on Saints Row 1, I had to go and go through the entire cutscene scripts and write down what every use of slang was supposed to be trying to get across, because they're trying to go and find the right word for localization. And it's like when you get something like, say, fuck, like it's so versatile, right? Like, you don't know. Are they saying it as a way to be like just a dismissive, friendly thing? I think they're actually angry, and so like I had to go through and like find every single like slang thing. But okay, this is
you get those notes back from the localizer, and it's like, really, what was the Emily Bronte one? Remember they changed?
Oh, I don't think we were.
Oh yeah,
they changed like Emily Bronte to Ellen, thinking, oh, it's both like it had like no contextual match at all. It was just the weirdest.
So one thing I was actually curious about, I mean, because we do linear narrative.
Right.
So you get at least somewhat of a assurance that, well, we're going to write this and someone on a playthrough is going to hear it.
Right.
So writing an open world, I mean, there must just be a lot of stuff that you're writing going like, this is great or this is awful, but I wonder if anyone's even going to hear this.
I don't think we've quite figured it out yet, to be honest. Like every Saints Row game has had a different line count because we're just trying to figure out like, oh, what's the sweet spot? Like how much voice do you need in the ambient world around you? Like what's too much? And we don't think anyone heard those things. We're just gonna totally rip that out and add more of these ones, but we don't know if anyone's hearing those. And it's kind of
suck. You're writing a script for like just some random passerby, and you think of this great line for someone getting hit by a car, and you're like, probably one person in 1,000 is going to hear this. That's the trap of that. And like, because like when I remember the first time I wrote it, it was like, my first writing job, and I was so important. I was going to go and show people how smart I am, And so like every line was like this, like was a zinger, and then like that works out great until you keep on hearing the same thing over and over again. Like the joke just doesn't work. But you keep on hearing the same stuff.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that we found in a lot of the multiplayer games that we've done is. Clever lines don't work. If you have to hear them more than once or twice, just make it 2 words, make it a sound effect.
Right. It's like you get shot. Like, what else? Like, what are you going to go and say? Like, you're not going to pontificate on your dead wife. You know what I mean? You say ow and it's okay. And like the fact that it's like okay to just say help,
That's the other thing that must be frustrating. That like, there really is only so many ways you can differentially write someone getting hit by a car.
Yeah. Exactly.
So with that, I really wonder with Driver San Francisco, because I never heard a repeated interior car conversation. I don't think.
You zoomed around a lot. I mean,
but so like, is there
might have, but those wouldn't have been. Yeah.
I mean, I wonder how many conversations there are. I mean,
I wish we had the Driver San Francisco writers here.
Yeah, we should have brought
that game
them in.
doesn't get enough credit.
Really dropped the ball, man.
Sorry, I apologize.
way to
completely.
just listen to the man and only take the ones nominated.
Was that dance?
I hear it's quite nice.
It is
Nice
quite
one.
Quite
Oh, yeah,
No,
it's
it's a good
back
game.
it up a little. Come on.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
It is a great game with a kind of thankless writing task, because they had to make this.
Who did that? Reflections?
Reflections
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it, but I don't know who actually wrote it. I met a guy, and I can't remember his
Yeah,
name.
well,
Was it
we've
Richard-
talked to some people who worked on some of it,
like on
but we
the
don't know.
periphery
Yeah,
of it.
Yeah.
But they had to make this police procedural that was serious generally, but all of a sudden the guy can fly because he's in a coma, and you had to explain that, and you can never get out of the car, and the whole story's still got to get told, and it's funny and it's dramatic where it needs to be, and it just all hangs together. It's got some nice twists and turns. It's a good game.
Yeah, I mean, you think that'd be Mission Impossible when you hear that pitch, but yeah,
Yeah.
it works.
well, and all those little conversations, and they all work and they tie together. You know, and that's like the classic thing of none of them have to be that funny.
Right.
But it's just a lot of them just fall where everything just happens to work right. Where that one's really funny because of what's either in your head, what's happening in the world, and it's like that perfect storm of like, okay, that's really funny.
So, actually, for the Bastion
Yeah.
narrator, was that a voice that kind of just immediately had, or was that something you had to work on?
No, it took it happened really fast, but the very first pass of narration was like more of the just like testing even the presence of having any kind of voice in the game. It was more like the kind of the fantasy narrative, like the thing you would sooner expect.
Was
right?
it jarring for people at first that it went so counter-genre?
Well, it was the one that we ended up with.
Yeah.
Not really. Well, we didn't really show it to a ton of. So it was jarring. There was like an intermediate thing that was shown at GDC like 2 years ago to a small group of people where the game was just like a hodgepodge of like crazy art and this like westerny narration and all that, and like people were like, this seems cool, but I don't know what the hell is going on. So then we basically pulled it together a lot more, but the voice happened pretty quickly because we already had an idea of the tone that we wanted, and we wanted this kind of, we were talking about this like Cormac McCarthy like fantasy, like frontier fantasy kind of world, and we're like, why don't we just have him do like why don't we have him be like Al Swearingen from Deadwood and like try that? And it's like, oh, that seems cool. And from from a writing perspective, it's like, oh, that's cool because that's kind of a man of few words type of writing style. You could drop a lot of because we had to be very, even though he's talking through the whole damn game, I had to try to be as minimal as possible because you can move through the game really, really fast.
Yeah.
So he had to like communicate as much meaning as possible in as few words as possible.
But it's interesting, just in terms of minimalism. You don't
Yeah.
technically need a lot for a character to become embraced.
Yeah,
It's really, I mean, I think when people
Yeah.
talk, all you need is a couple really good moments almost.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you just need the subtext there, right? It's like there needs to be. We wanted to have that feeling that like there was always something. He never says anything on the surface. There's always like something else behind what he's saying. We wanted people to feel like he's hiding something, and it was cool. Like even when we released the very first kind of our reveal trailer, and no one really knew anything about the game. Like some of the first comments were like, "I bet the narrator's the last boss," and I'm like, "That's kind of it's awesome that people think that like already, just because they're already like mistrusting him a little bit."
Well, what's cool too is that like not a lot of games like use the unreliable narrator as a conceit, right? Which is it's really refreshing to go and just see, you know what I mean, like a different take on things that people usually attack in like the most like obvious linear way possible. Because like I think people I don't. Well, it doesn't happen to you guys, but like I find that there's a lot of people who try to go and treat the player as being stupid. You know, they make these decisions based on like, oh well, the player's dumb, so we're gonna have to go and do things. Or the player's not gonna understand this. So we have to go and.
It's like you have to show them, you have to link it all together for them.
Yeah, and it's like I think that people. I think we'd all be better if we can just go and respect our players' intelligence and let them. You know what I mean?
And we all just hit each other with dildo bats.
Right. Sometimes you need a fart in a jar. We're classy.
That's really one way to solve a problem.
Do
Yeah, well, that's kind of interesting
Glass
though,
house.
because like I had Tim Schafer in the studio last week, and he was talking about how
show off.
Game drunk.
So
Fine.
He was talking about how like game developers don't really they solve all the puzzles for players up front. Like they don't like if a player gets stuck, then that's bad gameplay somehow. And it seems like what you were just talking about. Like you're not giving your players enough time to really think about these types of things.
Well, I think in some ways though it also depends on what's the experience that you're selling. You know what I mean? Like I love Steel Battalion, but Steel Battalion is not for everyone. You know what I mean? And I think it's a matter of like, what are you trying to go and do? Like Uncharted, I think it's great that Uncharted lets if you struggle on a puzzle too long, they're like, oh, actually, I remember it's blah. Because like, so there's some people who just want to go and play through the game. Yeah, exactly.
So
I mean,
you're a Steel Battalion fan?
I am.
You look forward to the
Are
new
you
one?
married?
Not anymore. No, okay. I love you, honey.
As much as I want to drive a mech, the thought of my wife walking in on me while I've got my mech controls out and I'm working it with the foot pedal.
What do we work for your wife or your kids?
Well,
my kids would probably understand.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's when I actually when we bought our house, I had to give up when we moved in. I had to give up Steel Battalion because I brought it to work. I'm like, I'm never gonna play this again. But because it's just there's this whole you have to like set up like a card table to do it. I don't know. It's a whole lot. It's like a minor act of God.
You've seen they're making a Kinect one, right?
They are. Unless
you just control with your hands or something.
I don't know. It's
Or
like
some HUD that you'll
It's
push?
probably like I don't know much about it, but I think it's a HUD.
It's a HUD thing, and I think it's like it does head tracking. So like you're in a tank, and there's like you have like a tank team in it, and so like you kind of look to your buddies in your mech and like talk to them. I guess I don't know if it doesn't delete your save game, it's bullshit. So that's my. But I really enjoyed it. But like even like Dead Rising, I actually like the fact that it's like you only had one save game and you go through and
Actually, I like the structure of Dead Rising.
Yeah.
It's got
It's unique.
a bad rap.
right.
But,
It's not for everybody. But I mean I appreciate things that are a little goofy, a little off the wall. So
Yeah, and I imagine it's interesting trying to write narratives in with all this new technology coming out, like these newfangled technologies, like something like Kinect. How would you tell us? Is it any different trying to make a game for that kind of thing?
I think there's really exciting opportunities. I just don't think that we've quite figured out what's the best way to do it. But like it conceptually, there's some cool shit you can do with Kinect.
I mean, gameplay wise, but I mean, writing wise, it's just a different kind of game, and you'd write for that.
Writing, but telling a story.
Although I think your buddy Tim.
Yeah.
He probably talk to you about that.
Okay. I'm gonna hang out later. I can bring this up
right now. But the Happy Action Theater, I thought was it's not really narratively particularly interesting, but just the idea, just like don't put any rules to it. Let's just let you play around with something.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but like I have a trouble talking to my TV. It weirds me out.
Yeah,
like, I don't mind doing anything with hand gestures, but like for some reason, like me like yelling at my TV is a barrier that I'm just not quite comfortable with.
Yeah, for me, it's like it's one step closer to just being like homeless and insane on the street, and I can't handle it. When that game,
do that without dropping any money. At all.
Yeah, exactly. When Tom Clancy's End War came out, that was that real-time strategy game that was all like voice controlled. Like, I thought the game was cool, but I just couldn't handle like.
Tom Clancy's End War was voice controlled.
Yeah, that was their whole thing. They they pitched
tanks attack.
Yeah, it was like
right.
I don't.
Off?
You could play it with a controller, but it was all like kind of nested menu based. That's how the voice. It was like point A attack, blah blah blah.
Did it recognize your voice pretty?
Yeah, no, it totally worked. It's just the thing. Yeah, for me personally, it's the thing I was saying where I'm like, dude, I'm playing this. Like, I can't talk to my TV at 11 p.m. at night.
Yeah,
it's
It's
just
not even like TV on or change the channels. Going back to the wife thing, you're like,
absolutely.
Supreme Commander of the tank.
Right.
Yeah, like what do? Your 2-year-old walks in, like, sorry, honey, you're not on the TV. It takes me back to like, remember for Nintendo, there was that stupid fucking headset that you yell fire, fire, fire to go. Like, who wants to do that?
The button really is a fairly good thing. It doesn't necessarily be re-engineered.
I'm a fan.
The thing is, so I want to talk to my TV, but Siri on my iPhone, I'm totally happy talking to Siri all the time. Well, it actually weirds me out that I thank her or I apologize. And I'm like, what am I doing?
Talking into your phone.
Yeah, maybe that's just it. But yeah,
right. Like if you're driving and you have Siri in your car, like I have a travel companion. Life is okay. But like you're sitting on the sofa, like people are
sad.
Yeah. Well, it's like you're trained. I think it's also.
Is your wife real?
It's George Glass. When you're sitting down, like we train ourselves, I think, when we're watching other things to be respectful and not talk. Right? Like you're watching TV, movies, you don't you're watching movies, you go see a show, you go see a concert, like you watch what you're doing. And so it just feels for me just totally unnatural to go and yell at something. I don't know.
Have you seen like what Mass Effect is doing with Mass Effect 3 and like?
Yes. Well, no, I've been trying not to look at anything about Mass Effect 3 because it's like a warm hug when I get to play it. So I want to know nothing.
But like just the idea of like talking to like your squad members, is that appealing for you guys at all?
Wait, so Mass Effect 3, you talk.
They have
Yeah, you
connect.
voice.
Yeah, you could say. Yeah, you could like issue the basic squad command. I mean, it seems from what I've seen, it seems similar to.
Yeah.
I mean, even again, like Clancy games, like some of the what's it called? Some of the Rainbow Six games years and years ago had that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like
It's
whatever,
just-
Ding Chavez, Tango, fucking take him down, whatever.
What if that's where the industry
But
goes though? Like,
it's-
when
that's
people
where it
wanna
goes.
interact
That's where
with
it
the
goes.
characters in the game. Can you
It's
imagine
just
running for that?
personally I find it like immersion breaking because it's like the if a game is trying to like create, it's like when you watch an atmospheric movie or something like that, you don't like imagine yourself in the scene. You disappear. You're just like in the world and you become like ethereal or something like that. So talking
I'm totally. That's me, honey.
yeah,
That guy running barefoot.
no, exactly.
through that high-rise,
So
terrorist.
He knows I'm Batman.
anytime I would
Look what I
like
just did, honey. I'm Batman, honey. Where are you going? Come back. I'm Batman.
but that's how it feels in a game, right? It's like if it's this kind of immersive atmospheric thing, suddenly I'm having to like talk like I'm not Commander Shepard. Commander Shepard is
Right.
Commander Shepard.
You want
like,
Commander Shepard to be Commander.
Yeah,
Because
it's-
those have that weird thing of like, so I have this problem with MMOs that there's always this certain point after playing it that I'm just really aware I'm playing a game.
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
investing this time in there, and it gets weird.
Yeah, I
and if I'm talking to a character, all of a sudden it's like, yeah. We're like, I like the co-op games because you can actually talk to another
Yeah,
person.
right.
You have,
Another person
you have this
makes
other
sense.
story, and like to me, that's the
Right.
interesting that
Also,
games do and
everybody-
go forward.
In this room and in this industry has laughed and laughed and laughed at that YouTube video of the LARPers going fireball, and they're slowly
Yeah.
gonna make it so that we're doing that.
Yeah.
Like, we're the people in that video going fireball, fireball.
Who is doing that? Who are they? Who is
Oh,
pushing?
I don't
this?
want anger LARPers. It was who's
Yeah, who's pushing us in this direction?
Oh, I don't know. You were making it. You were kind of sounding an alarm like this was. All
Oh,
Who is this
yeah.
here?
I don't.
All this.
I mean, I
I
think
don't
people
think
try
our
this
games
stuff
are-
from
Well,
time to
you're an
time.
alarmist, so you're yelling fire in a crowded theater. What the hell's wrong with you?
What?
Yeah.
Pay me for? I'm supposed to start
I don't
fires.
see it
Say, guys,
personally
freak out.
catching on. It's like a
Not
big
really.
thing.
I
Yeah.
think there's gonna be more. I mean, like the Kinect seems good.
Yeah.
You're moving. It's fine.
Yeah, it's more than just the
like,
voice
what-
stuff. Yeah.
Well, and also like what Connect's really cool too is that like the fact that in Fun Labs they have a thing where you scan objects or whatever, and it's like it's really cool. I'm like, oh, my daughter's Maleficent is dancing. Like that's neat. Like there's things that you can use it, but I think that just like yelling, attack. I don't know. I just don't want to. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah,
I'm just
it's
selfish.
like a little stepping stone on the way to something a lot better, and that's just
Yeah.
not
Or like, what if it's a
interesting.
stepping stone on the way to like something like Milo, where you're actually legitimately interacting with the character?
Maybe like if there was like a like. Do you guys ever play shit? Was it called Charade or it was
I played charades, yes.
It was
Yeah, you mean,
there's like the couple having a
Facade.
Facade,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Facade.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
the
the argument.
The dinner party.
Yeah, the dinner party when
game.
things go
Yeah, yeah.
bad. Like if there was something where like where you were talking and it actually responded to it, that could be kind of interesting because then like you're actually interacting with it and it's like it's reading what you're doing.
Yeah.
I like personally for me, if I had my druthers, I was talking about this with this guy at work. Like Siri, I think is a great example. If I could be driving in a car and some sort of voice recognition game where I can if I'm playing a trivia game and I can yell out the answer, and it recognizes it, that's a cool use of
Yeah.
voice because
Yeah.
everyone does that when you're watching
Well, but again,
TV. It's like a
that's the whole
natural
thing.
extension of what you
There's
do.
no like layer of abstraction.
Yeah,
You're actually
you are-
doing what you're doing. Whereas
Right.
saying fire is now you're
Right.
channeling through this
Exactly.
This other layer.
I mean, the other thing is,
Exactly.
I mean, you personally, do you play games to escape or to engage? Like, what kind of gamer are you?
I suppose it depends on my mood. I in general, I like to be immersed in things. Like I love. I don't need the challenge of things. I don't have a lot of time to play games, so like I love Uncharted because I can just like put it on easy, run through, get a cool experience, and be happy.
That's true.
Volition
As you get
says,
older, how many times you playing games on easy so you can
Yeah,
tourism.
absolutely, man.
or the headline tomorrow, Volition says, Uncharted 3, easy.
Yeah, seriously. Well, like
Challenging.
but something like Mass Effect, like that game, I buy into it like hook, line, and sinker. In my mind, like Mass Effect can do no wrong. But like Mass Effect 2, like that game, whenever I try to describe it, like that game was a warm hug to me. Like I was seeing old friends and like, oh my god, I'm so happy, and so that like I'm immersed in it. But
I'm an escapist gamer too, and I mean, I come home from the day of work, I want to kind of disappear into a game, and I mean, I don't know to what extent you were saying earlier. Like, I mean, to what extent when you're playing, are you the character, and to what extent are you playing a character? I mean, like you were saying earlier that, I mean, when you play, essentially you're seeing yourself on the screen.
No, I'm seeing. I
wanna
was saying
be
the
Commander
opposite.
Shepard.
I think the best sort of escapist games, like games that are truly atmospheric, are games where you forget your own existence. You
Right, right.
if
Right.
that makes any sense. You're just in that world and you like you're following this character, you're controlling the character and all that, but it's not like it's you and there, or there could be a game where it's like about, something like Half-Life is like the original is trying to like put you into the character's shoes, but a lot of game, when it's third person or something, like Dark Souls or something is like super atmospheric, and I lose myself when I play that game, but I don't think I'm like this dude
But
with.
if say your character's talking a lot,
Yeah.
I mean, does it take you out of it if he's saying something you wouldn't say?
I mean, absolutely, but that's like a writing thing, right? I mean, when games like force you to make when games like force your character to make narrative choices that like you don't agree with, those are like really frustrating moments, right?
Well, for me, I think it depends. I think it depends on what the artifice of the game is trying to go and do, right? Like, because I think for me, if I empathize with the character, I'll go along with whatever they do because I'm excited to be on that journey, right? Like Prince of Persia, I'm whatever the prince does, I'm there with him. I don't expect it. If the game tries to go and offer choice, and then all of a sudden they offer a choice that I wouldn't, if you say I can have choices, and now you're giving something that I wouldn't do, then I get upset. But if the game like says, oh, there's no choice involved, then it doesn't bother me because I'm just along for the ride.
That's a really good point.
Like in Skyrim, I tried my character. I was like trying to be just the greatest guy on the planet. I helped everybody. And there's this one thing where you go into a house. Oh, sorry. You go into a house, and when you get in there, a dark spirit comes in and forces you to basically bludgeon a guy to death, and he gives you a cool sword. Those are your only choices. And it's like one of those things where, like, I was actually kind of mad. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to have to kill this guy. I've just invested 60 hours not doing that to be this great guy, And it's like when something like that, where I feel like I'm doing something that my character wouldn't do, right? The character I've invested all this time in.
In Mass Effect 1, a lot of people make fun of it, but there's that choice when someone comes up to you and asks you whether or not it's okay to go and do some sort of medical procedure on an unborn baby, right? It was like if you go and do like treatment A, the baby will be born, but has like a 50% chance of a birth defect, or you can do this procedure, but if you do it, there's like a 15% chance that the baby will die and never be delivered. And like that choice, I sat there. And granted, like I'm a grade A pussy, so I take that out now. But like I sat there for like 20 minutes, and it wasn't like what do I think is ethically right? Like what would Kaori Shepard do?
Yeah.
How does she feel about this? She was a child who was attacked by slavers, and what would she do?
Yeah.
And like I just sat there, and this blew my mind. Like what would she do? But she has to make the right choice. I don't know. But
I think Mass Effect, and also I really liked how Witcher 2 did this too. It's like there are some of the few games where even though they give you character choices, they feel internally consistent to the character. Which I really respect that a lot from a writing perspective, that like you could go through Mass Effect like switching between Paragon Renegade type stuff, and it all still seems like something that Shepard would do in that situation at that time. Whereas if in something like a Fallout 3, which I love overall, it's really weird to see like the dialogue options because you're playing as like a paranoid schizophrenic or something, because at all times you have like this horribly like murderous thing that you could do, or like a completely generous saint like thing that you could do, and it always seemed weird to me that you could kind of flip flop between those things, because it doesn't seem like any one character would ever have like that range of choices going through their heads.
There really was no middle path in Fallout 3. Something that we got fucked with on Saints Row 2, we thought we were really, really clever. And that we had there's this arc in Saints Row 2 where it's there's this gang called the Brotherhood. And the original conceit that we wanted to go and do was we wanted the Brotherhood to be the nicest gang. We wanted them to just be the happy, like nicest, coolest people, and have the player just be a total jerks to them. You know what I mean? And be like, having like, it was like the theory, like, the player, the Saints are really no better than any of the other gangs, right? And so we go into this thing, and it was really mean. It was a really mean-spirited thing the player was doing. And when it kind of all came down, like some people were like, oh, this is so awesome, it was so dark. And other people were like, man, like the player is like a sociopath. And while you're driving around shooting people on the street, he's kind of a sociopath. But it's like, yeah, but it's different when I'm doing it. It's different than when I'm watching a guy like, James Hetfield, someone on stage with Pyro. You know what I mean? And so for Saints Row 3, we actually had a mantra of like, the player is not going to be a sociopath. We can't go and do that, because like some people really got turned off by the fact that I was making their player be lock a girl in the trunk of a car and crush him to death. You know what I mean? Like it was really.
It has to be their choice to do that.
Hilarious watching my wife play L.A. Noire because she was totally into the detective genre but wasn't really aware of hadn't played a lot of open world games, and she was actually following all the driving rules while driving around, like stopping at the reds, letting the pedestrians pass. I'm like, honey, you could just mow through those people. But she's like, well, no, I'm a detective. I'm on the side
That's
of
right.
law.
Well, that's the thing that's weird with the open world games. Like I really had like in LA Noire, you know, they make this thing about not. You know, when you first have to go and use your gun or whatever, but like you could do side missions where you're shooting people before that anyway, you know, or like I really had a problem with with GTA 4 because it was beautiful. It was this really great story, but it's like I'm this repentant killer, and I'm just shooting a bunch of people anyway. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't jive, and it's like if like I don't know. I think that if you're doing an open world game,
at some point there is that kind of thing where I love the Uncharted games and I love playing as Nathan Drake. That guy is a genocidal maniac.
Oh yeah.
Hundreds of people
Absolutely.
a day.
I mean, I think at some point you're just like, you know what, like I'm Han Solo. We're gonna ignore the fact that it killed millions.
Jay points out I like Uncharted 2 a whole lot. But there's that part in the beginning where you're just tranquilizing guys, and they make it very clear, like, we're just going to go through tranquilizing guys.
Because they're
a couple of those
attacking the
guys, you tranquilize them, and they fall 100 feet.
The first guy I tracked is like, don't worry, we're not going to kill him. These guys are innocent. I shoot the guy in the neck, he falls face forward into a pond.
He's dead.
Something tells me he's not going to be breathing too well there.
It's like watching a kid's show, like a cartoon, like destroy them, but they can't say kill or whatever. It's like,
plane, all the parachutes come out.
That's right.
Yeah, to the GTA 4 comment, like that's GTA 3 was always kind of my favorite because it was the one that like it kind of imprinted the least stuff on the character, so it made like the rampage, if you wanted to rampage through the game, it made that seem justified because you didn't really know what was going through the character's head. Whereas like the characters, the protagonist characters started getting like kind of more and more specific later on, and like Nico Bellic or whatever, I thought he was a great character, but he would never do, the kind of stuff that GTA invites you to do.
I will say though, and this is all part of the writing too, is that GTA 4 had a killer trailer.
Oh, dude,
that was one of the best trailers. I'm like,
fucking
I want to play that game.
Absolutely, the GTA 5 trailer is incredible too. Like, I mean, they make their presentation is top notch. Like, I got excited watching like the title sequence for GTA 4. I'm like, oh my god, this is gonna cure.
Reaction to that.
And that's something that as a game writer you do have to think about. So you be in a small group, you don't have a whole marketing team behind you necessarily. I mean, think about how to get
trailers
it out there.
that don't want to make me cry. You see the new Tribes Ascend trailer? All right, the game looks awesome. Totally gonna play it. It's Tribes.
Which one?
And there's a new one. Tries to make you cry. Yeah. It's a little sad, and it's like, really, you're playing Capture the Flag in Tribes, and don't make me cry. Like, there's no reason to cry.
The thing you're talking about, open world with like GTA, and I think about it, but I feel like it's kind of my choice that I go on a kill crazy rampage, so that doesn't bother me as much. And just from a writing perspective, and again, I always have to qualify this. I love GTA 4, but I think they're reaching this point where they've made the story a lot more interesting and a lot more serious. Yeah. But they haven't jettisoned the crazy over-the-top radio stations, and to me, it's starting to.
There's two games,
like two separate worlds that it exists.
Yeah, like in GTA 4, and this is the problem. It's almost like it's victims of their own success, right? Because GTA 4 has this really compelling story, right?
And then super, one of the most compelling serious stories I've ever seen.
Absolutely, but then it's like I see a bowling alley with like a cock and balls that are, you mean the bowling pin and things. Like I don't need that. Like it's like
these pun-based
right, like they totally fit the GTA 3 world, and I'm sure. They obviously, or well, not obviously. I assume they struggle with this internally. I think they're just not moving everything at the same pace.
Well, that's what I thought when Saints Row you guys did so well, though, right? You just so embraced, like, everything was at this heightened level, so that as I'm running through
I'm going to throw this out there, though, just so it doesn't seem like I'm just bagging on games that nobody here made. You guys got way better at it, because I used to, Saints Row 1, I was wincing at a lot of, like, freckle bitch, and I was like, I don't, maybe you wrote freckle bitch.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that's all right. I'll take it.
Freckle bitch was mine.
But then by the third one, everything just seemed
awesome.
Yeah.
And actually, that goes a long way to what you were saying earlier about how, don't write a piece of comedy if you're going to hear it a million times.
Yeah.
I found that, people who write clever signs and you're like, oh, people are going to love this. It's like, I'm going to see that sign 500,000 times and it's going to take me out of the game.
Right,
you actually did the greatest thing ever, and that's the guy auto-tuning his voice.
Yeah.
He's not saying funny lines. He's just saying lines, and I am dying.
You made up for freckle bitch with that one.
I'm so jealous of that idea.
Also, Saints Row 2 had a great thing where there was a mission, and the cutscene was the three characters detailing like how they're gonna sneak in to this room, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to sneak, and this looks so terrible. And then one guy just comes in like, fuck it, we're just gonna shoot our way in. Thank you, Saints Row.
Dick Tits, also good writing.
Dick Tits was funny.
It's Bulletstorm.
Yeah.
We laughed. We were making Portal 2. It literally was one of the darkest moments of Portal 2. I was like, look, with all this shit we're writing for Portal 2, we think it's funny. Dick Tits.
Yes, this guy came up at the perfect haiku.
Literally has digested comedy down into 2 words, Dick Tits. Yeah, not even kidding.
He solved it. He solved the riddle.
We were laughing for a week about Dick Tits.
Well, it's like when you're doing, like when you're doing something and you embrace it so much, you know what I mean? Like you can't get upset about Bulletstorm being, saying Dick Tits, because like you love it for it. You know what I mean? It's
we're not being ironic.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually really liked it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's just like it's great because it's like Bulletstorm is like, you know what we're gonna do? We're just gonna be outrageous and either come along with us or don't play it. But it's like when you have that, it's like it's so great because like you guys do like, Portal it's clever, it's a clever minimalist humor, right? Mm-hmm. And it's great. You're great at it, and it's really really funny. And it's like, but you're not trying to do something than what the game wants you to do, and it's really successful. Like you were successful in what you did. You had a plan, and then you do it, and you don't try to go and be everything to everybody, because then you're just always going to be fucked.
Actually, Bulletstorm. Did you play Bulletstorm?
Yeah, I played some. I didn't play it all the way through.
Okay, but the very beginning has this awesome opening where they're like torturing this guy, the main character. So there's that, but they strap a grenade to him and then throw him out an airlock, and then you're just having a conversation, and he comes floating by, still alive, in front of a window, and puts the grenade on the window, which is what starts the whole action, is him blowing this window up from the outside. It was such a great little moment.
Where were we? Okay, there was one thing that I wanted to get to what Jay said about. We're almost out of time, so I'm just going to completely break this conversation, but it's a good one. You were talking about how Skyrim kind of has this open world effect, and how there are different types of stories and narratives, and like you can be the one where you guys are telling a story, and then something like what Skyrim does, where you provide a background and let all the players have the stories. Do you guys think about that, or what is your opinion on that type of storytelling versus the direct kind of storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, there's a full range, right? I mean, there's you even get like there's the whole kind of more. There's a school of thought that like games should never have crafted stories. It should all be entirely around the player's experience, and it's like I think it's fine for people to think that way, but many of my favorite games do have crafted stories, and I think for me personally, the best combination is when it is crafted, but there is a high degree to which you as a player can interact with it and make choices with it, and stuff like Mass Effect does it really well, or moments and. From Portal 2 to Saints Row, there's like it reacts to the things that you do along the way, and funny things happen.
Even a crafted story should still be reactive to the player actions, but I think it's a false choice a little bit that it's this either or thing.
Right.
Games either have to be this one thing or the other. I don't know anything about the amusement park industry, but maybe there's some huge internal battle of rides should be roller coasters that don't have any story and just ride you up and down, and then there's the Pirates of the Caribbean guys, and they're both good. I go to the amusement park. I don't care. I like both of them.
I think it says a lot for just
thinking about it too hard.
About the gaming medium that we've kind of grown enough that there's just so many subgenres and niches out there for everybody. I mean, it's some days I want to watch Schindler's List, other days I want to watch Dumb and Dumber, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I mean, there are just games out there for every mood and every person.
Yeah, because sometimes I want to play the multiplayer games. I play a ton of multiplayer games, and I play TF2 or Left 4 Dead every single night. And then there's times I just don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to sit downstairs by myself, and I'm playing either Skyrim or even playing Civ 4.
I loved Fallout 3, one of my favorite games, and another one of my favorite games, Uncharted 2. They're incredibly different in how they tell a story and how they approach storytelling.
Both great, And
what I think is interesting too is I feel like we create these weird comparisons that aren't necessarily fair. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, this game's not as good as this game, but they're two radically different games. And I almost wonder if part of the reason why that happens is that the genres that we call genres in games are like first person, third person, right? Survival horror, whatever. But it's not like it's not like a movie where it's like, oh, this is a comedy, this is a western. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we don't look at like what are the different like genres that the story the game's trying to project itself. It's like we define it by the main mechanic, and not by what the experience is. And I think that then people are like, well, The Darkness is a first person game, and Serious Sam's a first person game, and Modern Warfare 3 is a first person game, so they're all should be approached with the exact same brush. And it's like, it's not.
Well, I mean, how many times have we get asked what genre is Portal? And so it's a first person comedic puzzle game.
Yeah.
So we've defined it kind of pretty narrow niche there that doesn't really fit in a category. It's pretty useless.
Yeah, well, it's kind of interesting because it's like that's entirely a product of what developed first. Like it seems like the stories didn't develop first; they're just kind of like
but it's true.
add on.
We define by mechanic or first person, third person,
and that's the medium, right? Because they are games after all. It's like for first and foremost, it's like what the play experience.
What did Bastion generally get counted as?
Well, we called it an action RPG.
I guess that's right.
But we called it that to make it easier for people to.
Yeah.
Like we throw it out there almost as a red herring. It's like, don't worry, it's kind of like Diablo. Just give it a shot. Whereas it's really more like Zelda. Like people called it a platformer, which I didn't really understand because you don't jump except in one small part.
In the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of So, but we called it an action RPG just to like make people feel comfortable that it was going to be something that they could be used to. Because in my experience, like. When a game is like a hybrid and you can't like pigeonhole it for people, then they're like, I don't know if I want to try that, and we want people to at least try it.
When did that start happening? Like I was thinking about like Atari games. Like no one ever was like, oh, like Pitfall or Circus Atari or like no one ever is like genreifies that. It's like, oh, I'm gonna play Frogger, and like that's just it. But somewhere along the line, it's like, oh, it's a third-person platformer.
I feel like by the
Nishi
90s,
undertones.
I think by the 90s it was already happening, and it's like, well, is this a 4X, space exploration game, or like, tell me what kind of game this is, and based on that, I will decide whether I'm interested in it or not. I mean, there were still these weird like hybrid games like Star Control 2 or something that was like action and adventure and whatever, comedy and science fiction, all these random things thrown together, but people, it was still like reduced to like, oh, it's a RPG.
Right.
So
great time to be in gaming.
Yeah.
A lot of games out there.
Star Control 2. Is there any games like Star Control 2?
No, I love Star Control 2 so much.
Reminded me of that. That's like a genre that I guess just ended.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a combination of different things that are awesome. It's like a combination of genres and all put together well.
But with your point, there's actually the thing happening now with all the indies where so many of the indie games just don't fit genres very well at all because I think a lot of times, I mean, when you're pitching something internally at a bigger company, people are trying to talk about it at this really big level without the details. Where in the indie stuff, it's always the detail stuff, and then they've got to play catch up with that.
Yeah, and they don't start from a position of genre a lot of the times, right? They do start like from an exploratory place, like around a mechanic or something like that, or around a tone or a mood or something like that, and then it evolves. But I mean, if they're then trying to like sell the game and or something, then they have to find a way to describe it to people to you always have to put that label on at some point because someone's going to ask you where do we put this in our store. Do you guys
ever see that flipping into more of a story kind of bent? Like, all right, we're going to start grouping games by comedy,
romance or comedy.
I mean, I imagine we need more emotional depth.
Well, there is some. I mean, it happens in some. It's like horror is a genre of like horror games and stuff. Like Amnesia, like people understand exactly what kind of game that is. I think.
Well, I think the sequel looks pretty sweet.
Yeah.
And I think there's communities that break off and look at stuff like Co-op This Prime. The website, like they're just looking at co-op games and looking for that experience. Mm-hmm. Or there's the guys who are look at all the Civ games, and I forget the name of that forum now. And I go there all the time. I feel bad. Where it's like they're playing that kind of game and they're making the choice of how to look at it, right? So I mean that's an interesting thing that pops up. The community kind of defines what they're actually looking at and caring about.
Yeah, totally. All right, I think we're out of time. I appreciate all you guys showing up. This was awesome. Greg, thank you for swinging by.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, totally. Eric, Jay,
having us.
your little sign-offs. Chet, thank you very much. And Steve.
Thank you.
Also, very interesting discussion. And to close out on Chet's point, we have an indie podcast coming on Monday. So look forward to that. But that does it for this week. Thank you for tuning in all week, everyone. That does it for us. Goodbye.